viewers. So today we are going to learn about a movie or documentary named An Inconvenient Truth. So before we move into the objectives of the study, I would like to suggest one thing to you people is that before you go through the study materials about this lecture and about this movie, it will be great if you watch the movie first, because when you watch the movie, then you have a preliminary idea about what it is, and then you can go through the critical analysis that we will do here today. So firstly, let's go through the objectives of the study. So the first objective is that understanding the basics of the documentary An Inconvenient Truth. Secondly, learning a general critical review of the documentary. Then we will go through a detailed analysis of the arguments put up in that documentary. And lastly, we will address the documentary in context of climate and environmental issues such as global warming. So first, let's go through the brief about An Inconvenient Truth. So it is a very impactful and powerful portrayal of global warming and its impact. So the main scientific arguments presented in this movie have mostly been based on current scientific evidences, but some of the main points need updating, correlation, or even qualification. The detailed argument also entirely is based on the past and current evidences and does not go through a lot of computer modeling, because such information may be difficult to process by laymen, to even grasp emotionally as well. So this places an undue weight on current events and signs of ongoing climate change, and such events sometimes may not be related to climate change at all. So now we will go through a critical review of the movie. So firstly, inspiration from Gore. So A.I. Gore was the Vice President of the United States, and he campaigned a lot on raising awareness of the global warming issue and encouraged action against climate change. So the context of the film largely derives its ideas from the lectures of Gore he gave at a number of universities and schools all over the world. So the presentation includes impressive visual supports which demonstrate the level of climate change already wrought from our consumption of carbon. He details the elements of modern environmental movements and the traces that develop of his interest and involvement in climate change and his university days onwards. So the film title alludes to the hesitancy of politicians and governments to address climate change because of the tough and the potentially unpopular actions that are required to tackle the issue. The financial cost of changing to less environmental damaging energy and the sources, and also the need to alter our lifestyles and the means of production. Gore details some of the elaborate and underhanded efforts by the United States of American government officials to hide the truth about global warming from the American people. So addressing the effects of global warming on the daily lives. While understanding the science is important, it is often easy to disregard the direct impact that these incremental changes are having on a daily basis. The film does an excellent job of addressing how the effects of global warming have affected millions of lives around the world. Deaths due to extreme heat waves, homelessness due to flooding, and more regular occurrences of storms, mudslides, hurricanes, drought, etc. Gore also outlines the impact of the minute daily temperature rises on ecological cycles, such as birds starve because caterpillars hatch early, and the forests that are destroyed by extended feeding periods of the pine beetles. Most frighteningly, the film points to the catastrophic future of the planet, its ecology, and the inhabitants unless immediate action is taken. The viewer is horrified by the scientifically calculated images of China, San Francisco, and Manhattan, all partially submerged by the rising sea levels, which will result from the rapidly melting ice caps and by a computer-generated image of a polar bear swimming miles in search of ice and a place to rest. But the film has an optimistic conclusion. So, the optimistic tone in which the film ends is that it is not a choice between an environmental friendly economy and the general economy of the state itself. Humanity has the technological and scientific knowledge to address the problem, and what is needed is the determination and the public will to change our lifestyles and consumption patterns. The closing credits are used to highlight small but effective actions that viewers can take to make a difference, like walking, riding their own bikes, using green energy, and for example, planting trees is a very small effort, it apparently seems, but has a huge impact on global warming. Or even driving a hybrid car, learning and put that knowledge into action. One example of preventing global warming via our daily lives is that the ACs we use at our homes that produce a lot of CFCs, and now these CFCs are one of the most important greenhouse gases. And as we know, global warming is basically an extension of the greenhouse effect that leads to the overall rise in the temperature of the earth. So the reduced usage of CFC producing air conditioners can have a huge effect on the problems of global warming. But this needs a change in the whole manufacturing process, which we mentioned in the points, and also the awareness of the consumers. Some development educators may argue that the film does not go far enough in proposing actions that will support good educational practice. It could be described as disempowering, in the sense of highlighting the enormity of the problem but not responding with the required radical actions needed to address it. Conversely, the global warming skeptics say that the film was exaggerated and the effects will not be nearly as drastic as portrayed. To conclude the critical review section of the lecture, An Inconvenient Truth has played a significant role in raising public awareness about the climate change to a new level and has been significant educational tool in the upper post-primary schools at a third level. A.I. Gore's recent Nobel Peace Prize for his campaigning work on climate change will add weight to the message of his film, which despite its shortcomings represent an important starting point in engaging the public with the issue of global warming. So now that we have learned about the critical review of the movie, let's have a small quiz. So which of the following facts in the movie An Inconvenient Truth is contested amongst the environmental scientists? A. Rising global temperatures resulting in increasingly intense storm cycles. Option B. Mass extinction of over 1 million species attributed to human interference. Option C. The likelihood that death tolls from heat waves will double in 25 years. And option D. The speed and extent to which melting polar ice caps will flood the globe. And yes, the correct option is option A, rising global temperatures resulting in increasingly intense storm cycles. We will understand the movie An Inconvenient Truth in context of environmental concerns. AIT is a documentary per se that features major portions of a slideshow by A.I. Gore interspersed with interviews and other vignettes. Therefore, the discussion of the context of the movie is based upon repeated viewings and the transcription of the movie. The slideshow in AIT is very engaging, and its choices of what to include and what to leave out are targeted to produce a much greater retention rate and the paradigm shift than a typical college lecture. Gore's knowledge of the science, including many of its subtleties, is impressive, and his ability to convey the information in a memorable way is also very impressive. The message of the slideshow and the documentary is that global warming is a very serious problem caused by humanity itself, and we ourselves have the capacity and also are in moral obligation to fix it. So now I will read out the main scientific arguments present in the movie, and then we will analyze those arguments one by one as far as possible. So the main arguments in the AIT consists of a series of points. Firstly, despite Earth's size, it is possible for us to have a lasting and harmful impact on the Earth's environment. B, global warming is caused by global warming pollution, which traps extra infrared radiation. C, carbon dioxide is going up relentlessly because of the larger changes in our civilization. D, impacts of resulting global warming are visible worldwide in retreating glaciers. E, temperatures are unprecedented over 1,000 years and the trend is intensifying. F, the carbon dioxide concentrations are unprecedented over the past 650,000 years and going higher, and the ice cores show that there are more CO2 and the temperature gets warmer. Consequently, point G says the hurricanes, rainstorms, and droughts are getting stronger. H, a rapid warming is taking place in the Arctic as a clear sign of global warming. I, climate change can take place suddenly rather than gradually, for example, the ocean currents. Point J, global warming is changing ecological niches, enhancing the spread of infectious diseases, jeopardizing ocean systems, and coral bleaching. K, the recent breakup of the Arctic sheets is another clear sign of global warming. L, Greenland and West Antarctic ice sheets are endangered. Their melting would cause catastrophic sea level rise. And lastly, the scientists agree that the global warming is a serious problem. So now let's analyze some of these points raised in the movie. So point B was global warming is caused by the global warming pollution, which traps extra infrared radiation. So as I explained earlier, that the phenomena of global warming is the entrapment of the sun's rays that causes a gradual rise in the temperature of the earth. But in this case, the use of the phrase global warming pollution is political rather than scientific. Although the actual process works somewhat differently than described in AIT and involve absorption, emission, and other heat transfer mechanisms, this description provides a non-technical audience with an accessible understanding of the basic idea. Now, let's move on to point E. The temperatures are unprecedented over the past 1,000 years and the trend is intensifying. While this point has been supported by some published studies at the time, it is now understood to be too strong. The most up-to-date authoritative pronouncement on current temperatures relative to the past 1,000 years is that the North report, which states that presently available proxy evidence indicates that the temperatures at many but not all individual locations were higher during the past 25 years than any period of comparable length since AD 900. So the accuracy of the statement that the temperature trend is intensifying depends on how the trend is being measured. Now we will discuss about the point G, which is consequently hurricanes, rainstorms, and droughts are getting stronger. Point G notes, following the IPCC, that hurricanes, rainstorms, droughts have been observed to become more intense in the recent decades. An increase in intensity is consistent with expectations derived from physical arguments or global climate model predictions. So another point would be point L, that is, Greenland and West Antarctic ice sheets are endangered. Their melting would cause catastrophic sea level rise. This point is a little misleading because though the melting of the ice caps in Greenland would actually lead to a catastrophic rise in the sea levels, but the whole idea of breaking up of Greenland is not possible because Greenland is not a floating ice sheet. So the mechanisms for possible accelerated loss of the Greenland ice sheet involves surface melting and acceleration of the outward flow of the ice sheet to the sea. Lastly, the point M, that scientists agree that the global warming is a serious problem. This is not accepted by all the scientists who are working on global warming. Oreskes investigated whether the published papers agree with the consensus explanation for global warming, but whether such papers considered global warming to be a serious problem or not, that was not investigated. In any case, such value judgments are rarely found in scientific articles. Scientific articles tend to be more logical while they put up their points but leave the idea of any opinion to the readers. So, global warming in facts and not in models. So, in this movie or documentary, An Inconvenient Truth, the portrayal of global warming was mainly based on the evidences that were present, the past evidences, the recent evidences, but there was very, very minimal usage of computer modeling and predictions and other mathematical and scientific models so as to prove the effects of global warming in the future. That was mainly done because to make it more appealing to the audience, because the audience watching the movie might not be experts in the field of science, mathematics, or any such subject. So, to make the movie appealing to such layman audience, Gore had thought of not putting the computer models that was too abstract or intangible and even very complex to understand. So instead, the movie relies almost exclusively on the events that have already taken place to make its case. This has the cumulative effect of making global warming immediate for the audience. So, present tense used in the movie there are certain cases where the present tense has been used in the movie so as to extrapolate the trends in the present day. So now we will go through some errors in portrayal. Trends in unusual weather events are only detectable over decades, and if an argument is built on the basis of weather during the past year being not nice, what happens to the argument when the weather the next year is nice? So, a rigorous scientific argument based on statistics has been put aside in favor of soliciting a visceral response from the audience. So, in many cases, the presumed link to rising global temperatures is absent. For example, Gore mentions that the Japan set an all-time record for typhoon frequency in 2004. Yet, there is presently no detectable trend in typhoon frequency, either globally or in the Northwest Pacific. And with global warming, the current scientific consensus is that the typhoon frequency would probably stay about the same or may decrease even. It is in human nature to seek explanations and causes for natural disasters rather than accept that they are a product of largely coincidences and chance. So it is also in human nature to imagine that things are getting worse. So arguing that a statistically significant trend in extreme events is present has much less rhetorical power to the lay audience than does arguing the specific extreme events or predictions of global warming come true. Gore has substituted an emotionally powerful argument for a scientifically valid one, which is a huge error in the movie. But to conclude, the movie is extremely powerful. Many parts are very effectively address common misconceptions about climate change. The evidences used in support of the scientific argument is often event specific, but individual events are rarely attributable directly to climate change. Gore makes the apparently tactical decision to avoid mention of climate models and projections of the future climate in favor of emphasizing the present signs of global warming. This maximizes the emotional impact of the movie An Inconvenient Truth, but also results in a scientific argument, many of whose details do not stand up to the scrutiny. An Inconvenient Truth, likewise, is both effective and annoyingly misleading. So now that we have critically analyzed the whole aspects of global warming and the portrayal of the same in the movie, we have a small quiz. According to A.I. Gore, in An Inconvenient Truth, climate change is what kind of an issue? Number 1, environmental. Number 2, moral. Number 3, social. And number 4, political. So, the answer is, of course, number 1. It's an environmental issue. Therefore, to summarize, we learnt briefly about the whole movie, An Inconvenient Truth. We critically reviewed the movie in the first section of the lecture, and then we learned about the environmental concerns that are addressed in the movie or this documentary. Then we analyzed point by point the scientific arguments proposed in the entire movie. And lastly, we also analyzed some errors in portrayal of the concerns in the movie, and thus we neatly summed it up. Thank you.